In the skies above New York, airline protocols said one thing: this flight was over. There was no training manual for what came next. Captain Chesley Sullenberger had 208 seconds to make a choice: return to the airport, ditch in the city, or try something no pilot had ever attempted. What happened in those final seconds shouldn't have been survivable, but it became one of the most extraordinary moments in aviation history. This is how a doomed flight became a miracle. January 15th, 2009 started like any other day. Passengers boarded a short flight from New York City's LaGuardia Airport to Charlotte and Seattle in the United States. Business travelers, families, people thinking about dinner plans, not survival. In the cockpit sat a veteran pilot named Chesley Sully Sullenberger with his co-pilot Jeffrey Skiles. Chesley Sully Sullenberger was a highly experienced commercial airline pilot with more than 4 decades of flying behind him, including service as a US Air Force fighter pilot. Beyond the cockpit, he was widely respected as an aviation safety expert and instructor, known for his meticulous approach to risk, training, and decision-making. Jeffrey Skiles was a veteran commercial airline pilot and former U.S. Air Force officer, known for his strong technical background and methodical approach to flying. He was also an experienced instructor and check airman, respected for his deep knowledge of aircraft systems and commitment to discipline, by-the-book aviation professionalism. There was nothing special about this flight, and that's what makes what happened next so terrifying. Just after takeoff, at around 3,000 feet, the plane hit a flock of birds, and within seconds, both engines failed. Passengers heard a loud bang, followed by sudden silence as warning lights filled the cockpit. The engines didn't just lose power, they were completely destroyed. In aviation, this is the worst situation imaginable, because without engines, a plane can't fly, it can only fall. From the moment the engines failed, the plane became a glider, losing altitude by the second as its speed continued to drop, with New York City directly below. Air traffic control immediately offered nearby runways, and on paper, returning to an airport seemed possible.
Cactus 1549, turn left heading 270.
This is Cactus 1539, hit birds, we've lost thrust on both engines, returning back towards LaGuardia.
Okay, you need to return to LaGuardia, turn left heading up 220.
220.
But in reality, it wasn't. In Sully's judgment, there simply wasn't enough altitude, time, or margin for error to do so safely. The nearest airports required turns and glide distances that exceeded what the aircraft could reliably achieve, and attempting them risked crashing into densely populated areas. They had 208 seconds to decide. Flight manuals never covered how to land a commercial jet on water in the middle of a city, and simulators and checklists offered no help either. This decision had to be made in real time: return to an airport and risk crashing into buildings, or attempt something no commercial pilot had ever done successfully: landing on a river. Not just any river, but the Hudson, freezing, crowded, and unforgiving, yet straight ahead. Sully keyed the microphone and calmly said the words no one expected to hear.
We're gonna be in the Hudson.
There was no panic and no drama, just a statement of fact. Passengers, still unaware of how serious the situation was, felt the plane turn and begin its descent. Some prayed, some braced, and some stared out the windows in disbelief. This wasn't supposed to be survivable. At roughly 140 miles per hour, Captain Sully performed an almost impossible task: ditching. An unpowered ditching is an emergency water landing performed without engine thrust, relying solely on the aircraft's remaining speed, altitude, and aerodynamic control. The pilot must carefully manage glide angle, speed, and altitude to touch down smoothly on water, minimizing impact forces and keeping the aircraft intact long enough for passengers to evacuate. It's considered one of the most demanding maneuvers in aviation because there's no second attempt. Once altitude and speed are gone, the outcome is locked in. The plane hit the river at a perfect angle, with the fuselage skimming across the water like a stone. The wings stayed intact and the cabin holding together. The aircraft didn't explode, it floated. For a brief moment, no one moved until reality set in and they realized they were alive. But survival still wasn't guaranteed. The Hudson River in January is near freezing, and hypothermia can set in within minutes as water rushed into the cabin. Passengers climbed onto the wings, some standing ankle deep in icy water, and yet there were no screams or chaos, just shock. Then something remarkable happened. Ferry captains on the Hudson saw the plane go down and without coordination or command, turned their boats instantly. Within minutes, ferries surrounded the aircraft and passengers were pulled to safety one by one. Every single person survived, all 155. Something like that in aviation history simply shouldn't have happened. The news spread instantly. A commercial jet had lost both engines and landed on water with 0 fatalities, and the media quickly called it a miracle. But aviation authorities weren't satisfied with that explanation. They needed answers. Was this luck, skill, or could the plane have safely made it back to a nearby airport? After the landing, aviation investigators ran computer simulations suggesting the plane could have made it back to a nearby airport. For months, this quietly put Chesley Sully Sullenberger under scrutiny, with some officials implying the river landing was unnecessary and even reckless. Extensive simulations were run in order to convince authorities that Sully could have landed the plane safely at an airport. However, what the simulations initially ignored was human reaction time, stress, and real-world decision delays. Factors that only surfaced later when pilots were allowed to account for them. Once those realities were added, every realistic simulation failed to reach an airport. Sully was ultimately cleared, but the controversy revealed an uncomfortable truth. One of the most celebrated aviation decisions in history was nearly second-guessed by data that didn't reflect human reality, a tension between algorithms and judgment that still echoes in aviation today. What saved the flight wasn't superhuman reflexes, but judgment, experience, and knowing when not to follow procedure. Sully understood something critical. Trying to save the plane would have killed everyone, so he chose to save the people instead. Everything about the landing defied the odds. Water usually destroys aircrafts. Cities leave no room for error, and engines almost never fail at the same time. Yet a perfect chain of calm decisions and restraint made survival possible. It wasn't brilliance, but discipline. The real miracle wasn't the landing itself, but what didn't happen. There was no panic in the cockpit, no chaos in the cabin, and no ego in the decision making. Just professionals doing exactly what the moment demanded. The plane that should have crashed didn't survive because of technology. It survived because one human recognized the limits of control and acted anyway. In 208 seconds, disaster became history, and the Hudson River became proof that sometimes the impossible isn't luck, it's leadership.